Central St. Petersburg, a heavy police presence. The man we've blurred is Misha, not his real name, one of many Russians who just went for a walk today. Someone who happened to see others out protesting, protesters who risk 15 years in jail for just speaking out. No to war, he heard shouted as he filmed his walk in the sunshine, with police bundling protesters into the back of vans. Alex was blocked, he explains, by special riot cops Russians call the cosmonauts. But because he was walking quietly, not with the protesters, he got out. It was nerve-wracking.
At first, everything was quiet, just lots of people walking, nothing suspicious. But at the end, when I was going to go to a cafe, right there on the square and also nearby, I could see people being targeted and captured. And in general, there was a lot of violence towards the end.
Across Russia, there have been many thousands of arrests. Sunday the 6th of March is very significant here, just before the start of Lent and a day of forgiveness. Russian social media accounts urging people to spend time with loved ones, a good day for a walk. Some posts more cryptic than others because the stakes are so high. Go for a walk in Pushkin Square at 7, says this one. According to human rights monitoring groups, by late afternoon, nearly 4,000 people had already been detained in 53 cities across the length and breadth of Russia in connection with their invasion of Ukraine. There were over 1,400 known detentions in the capital, Moscow. There were nearly 1,000 in the second biggest city, St. Petersburg, nearly 300 in the third biggest, Novosibirsk, and there were arrests in the Far East, with at least one in Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky. Journalists are particularly at risk.
One of our journalists was attacked from the back, his hands bound. We haven't been able to speak to him. In Moscow, a photographer was attacked. We have a photo of him being dragged away. And in Kazan, capital of Tatarstan, our correspondent's apartment was raided.
Real risks to real people for those Russians who haven't managed to leave.
Well, we spoke earlier to one Russian woman who's already fled with her family to Turkey, and we're not using her name for her own safety. I asked her how the atmosphere in Russia had changed in the past few days.
Things changed so much. I mean, the morning of the 24th was just the beginning of the end for Russia as we knew it. And at first, I wasn't really scared. I mean, of course, I was a little bit scared when I went to the protest, but when I came home, I thought, it was all right. And then now I'm asking my friends to delete things from Facebook that could get them into trouble. And people have already deleted any statements from Facebook because it's getting really scary, because there's a new law that means you can go to jail for up to 20 years. For showing any support, and there's talk of martial law being introduced any day, and very prominent Russian sort of media people, NGO people, activists are leaving or have left and have said, get out while you can.
And yet we still see today quite a few Russians in cities across the country still protesting.
Yes,
what
which
do you,
is
what
amazing.
do you feel about that?
Well, I'm scared for everyone out there, honestly, and I think they're absolute heroes for having the courage to go now, because they have said already that if you go to the protest, they will send you down to Ukraine to fight.
I mean, the government, of course, have said very, very clearly over the last couple of days that talk of martial law, talk of people being conscripted is just simply not true.
Oh, well, every time they say something isn't true, it is. I start calling all of my male friends saying, can you get out? Can you hide? Do something. I'm scared for everyone now.
And yet the other thing that the government would say is the number of protesters is tiny, and that the vast majority of ordinary Russians support them in this special mission, as they call it.
Well, of course they would say that. They don't have the majority of people. They have about half of Russians.
The government has closed down a number of independent media outlets and websites. Was that always inevitable? Or do you think there's any sense that it is because they are nervous about the level of dissent?
I don't think they're nervous. I think they've gone full Stalin. They've gone completely Soviet. And they're not just nervous. I think they've gone fully insane. It's completely different to the way things were 11 days ago.
I know you have a little boy, and I just wonder how you feel about the fact he is born in Russia, he is Russian, but now must live somewhere else.
I never want him to have the fear, to know what it's like to be as scared as I was when I was still in Moscow. My grandmother told me about this fear when I was younger, and I thought it was history. Well, now it's repeating itself. And also another thing is, I'll have to tell him to be careful about saying where he's from, because I don't want him to be bullied for being Russian.
Well, thank you very much for speaking to us today.
Well, thank you for having me.